website, Sean's Tell, FightHype.com.
How you keep finding me, man? How do you keep finding me?
You keep letting me come over.
Yeah, why
But,
not?
but the two-time champion of the world and now freshly retired, my man,
Yeah,
Shawn Porter. Happy to see you at peace, man, with your family
yeah.
and just happy the day after the fight. How you feeling?
Man, I think, I'll speak for fighters. I think a lot of us, we look forward to that day after. We kind of, sometimes we know what the day after is going to look like. Sometimes we don't. And I think a lot of times we look forward to seeing what is that next day. What is it? You know what I mean? Um, from a standpoint of success, it's like 50-50 for me. This day after, I feel a little success. Of course, not having the success that I wanted last night leaves me not feeling as successful as I wanted to feel on Sunday morning. Nevertheless, I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful to be able to do what I've done in this sport. I think for a lot of people, my retirement is surprising yet unsurprising. And I think for a lot of people, they're like, it makes sense. He's fought everyone. And it really wasn't, that's not why I retired. I retired because now's the time. Started when I was 8. I literally haven't stopped. I did football in between. So I did football August to October, November. And it was the only time I ever really took off of boxing. I never went to the POW National Championships. And that's because of football. So that's one big tournament in the amateur system that I've never went to. Other than that, went to them all, won them all, placed second, if not won them, you know what I mean? And so collectively between that and now, I believe 13 years as a professional, and when you combine that with the fact that I have fought everyone at the top of the division, everything that it takes to get prepared for a fight, to actually have that fight, to recover from a fight, and that whole cycle. I've done that cycle so many times, and as I approached this fight and probably the last fight and the fight before that, Aerosmith Jr., it was starting to wear on me. You know what I mean? I was just mentally, physically, emotionally. And I think I don't think, I know. I've taken advantage of this sport as much as I could. My father didn't allow this sport to take advantage of me. And it's really hard for a lot of fighters can't say that. I'm one of the fortunate ones to have a dad who's my manager, who's my trainer, who just has that sense to know what to do, when to do it. And, I think collectively, whether anybody agreed or disagree with what he said last night in the ring, a lot of emotions going around and all that. I give my dad a 100% pass because I understand my dad. So even in moments where y'all may not understand him or you hear what he says, you may not agree with what he says, I know how to weave through what he says and find his points. You know what I mean? So you can't expect everyone to do that, especially when they don't know my dad. So I expect that my dad, we haven't had a full conversation about this retirement, but I have a pretty good feeling that my dad is completely at peace with everything. I am as well. That being said, man, I'm looking forward to the next chapters.
Is it possible with your father that he's old school, people just aren't used to people being so 100% honest anymore?
Hey, you know what the crazy thing is? Barry Sanders' dad will look at him in his eyes and tell him that he's not the greatest running back to ever play. That's just crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It kind of hurts, kind of stings. You kind of, over the years, I've learned how to grow past all of my dad's expectations and kind of like just pick the ones that are like the ones that I knew that I could reach and things like that. And then kind of whatever else I felt like he was expecting too much or demanding too much, it was like, man, I'm out to prove everything to everybody else. Why do I have to prove to the man that's been in my life my entire life the same things that I'm trying to prove to the world? You know what I mean? So it gets hard. But going back to that analogy, when you got Barry Sanders' dad looking him in his eyes, telling him that he's not the greatest running back to ever play, then you I think if people knew that about Barry, then they would have a little bit more of a okay. It just kind of happens with dads, that dads want more and expect so much, and it just is what it is.
It's part of what made you who you are, right?
It is. I mean, I told my dad last night. I said thank you. And he was telling me about some of the things he's been seeing since that post fight that he interview and all that. And I said, Dad, don't let any of that bother you. I said, truly, thank you. And I thanked my dad probably about 5 or 10 times before we parted ways last night. And I said, thank you for getting me here. I said, who would have knew? And he said, yeah, who would have knew? Because he and I, neither of us, we wanted all this, but we never sat down and said, we're going to win the IBF. We're going to go 30, we're going to go 20, whatever, no. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. He said, hey, I'm going to manage you. I'm going to manage your career. I'm going to make sure you get the best at everything that you can get. My dad did that. So anybody out there who does not agree with him, anything that he said, like my dad says, man, I get to wake up with my son in the morning. You don't. And that's been my position this whole time. Like, I don't care what other people say or think about me for the most part, because they're not my wife. I'm not waking up with them at night, in the morning. I'm not going to bed with them at night. They're not my kids. I don't have to do da-da-da-da-da. So, my dad and I, we're good, and we'll get even better. So,
is it possible, gonna put 2 in 1 here, that he's saying he didn't get what he wanted from you at a camp, but then after the fight you mentioned, I wasn't going my hardest in camp because I was saving my body. This is something I hear from older athletes. They don't go as hard in practice to preserve their body for the game or for the fight.
Yeah.
Is it possible that, it's just a mix up, and he's thinking it's that, but it's really you're doing it on purpose? And also, how the hell did you give Crawford his toughest fight when you didn't apparently have a great camp?
So I think 2 things. I think number 1, my dad and I, our communication isn't the best. My dad is always like, you do this, you do that. And I've always been okay. And I think as I matured and got older, I got into a situation where it was like, I can't, or I don't want to give as much, or whatever the case may be. I always had my understanding of why. But it's like you can't explain that to Coach KP, because Coach KP doesn't want to hear any ifs, ands, or buts. He's an old school coach. Mm-hmm. He's an old school man. He doesn't want to hear that. And he's got the Montgomery brothers, and that's how they are. And so, he's got 2 good guys who are going to follow his commands and do what he asks them to do, and he's going to lead them to success. I got to a point, or have gotten to a point, where it was like, I realized I give so much in training, and then when it comes to fight night, it was like, yo, you do so much from the opening bell that you have to figure out a way to kind of preserve yourself through this fight. And I think that it got in the way of my fight with Terence Crawford. There were points where I should have been old school Shawn Porter, go, 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 go. And I was like, if I go, 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 I won't have enough at the end. And I think that, that got in the way of my performance. It really did. But beyond that, yeah, I think it's just a communication thing. It's one side is, hey, you're not giving it your all. And the other side is like, I'm not going to tell you why I'm not giving it my all. All I know is on the night of, I need everything that I got and more against this kid.
Yeah, it always amazes me with you that you become 2 or 3 times the fighter you were in the gym on fight night.
Yeah.
I've seen you, honestly, maybe 500 on rounds.
Yeah, man.
In the gym, lose as many as you won. But
yeah, you see me struggle, and that's always been my dad's his strategy is always make him fight in the gym, take him through that fire in the gym, and then in the fight it'll be much easier. And this is the first time, honestly, this is the first time that I did not go completely through the fire. And I don't know whether or not that showed up or was relevant through the fight, but my dad, obviously, he feels that it was. So.
And just talking about the fight, Shawn, did Crawford have you hurt in a way that Spence didn't in that 11th round? Was that the most hurt you'd been as a pro, Shawn?
Most hurt I've been as a pro. And I was actually thinking about it before we came here to do this. He hit me clean a ton. He hit me clean a ton, and I didn't keep my hands up. Defense, but in that moment when the first knockdown happened, I lost my composure. And even though you couldn't see it on the outside, here's the funny thing about boxing: everything's internal in boxing. All of our energy, all of our injuries are internal. Everything that we have is all of it's eternal, and we have to mask it. And then on the outside, we have to be a superhero to the man we're fighting, a superhero to the crowd, a superhero to the judges. And even though you guys didn't see it, I was thinking about that on the inside in my mind. I was like, I'm getting hit, I'm getting hit, I'm getting hit, and I went down off of an uppercut I had to censor myself right there. I went down off of an uppercut. The first time that I went down, I was like, you're good. I got up, no problem. I actually was not as hurt as I was against Crawford, or excuse me, as I was against Errol Spence Jr. And I looked over at my corner, let my dad know that I was okay, but I lost my composure, and it was because I got hit clean more than I'm used to. And once we got back fighting, I told, this is what I went through with my wife. I said, when you get put down, or the judges see you get hit clean, I said it was a moment where I should have retreated. I said, but when I retreat, I lose that round. Now you say, hey, you got knocked down, so you already lose that round. But then what energy am I giving my opponent? I retreat, gives him more energy to keep coming at me, gives him energy. He forgets about fatigue. He forgets about the punches that he threw, all that kind of stuff. And the only thing he's focused on is getting me out of there. I didn't want to give that to Terence. And then on the other side of it is the judging as well. If you give them any indication that you're any more hurt than you are, guess what? If you come out fresh in the 11th round, they're stuck on what happened in that last round and how injured you were in that last round. They don't really see things the way that. So I told my wife, like, I kept going because I did not want Crawford to get any more momentum than he already had, and I didn't want the judges to have anything else to hold on to leading to 11th and 12th round. I go at Terence, and then I lost my composure. It was like, you're getting hit. Keep your hands up. Use your defense and move. And it was like, in that moment, and that's just kind of what happens at the elite level. There's moments.
You felt the need to hit him back with something hard immediately.
I felt the need to hit him back, and I also felt that once I got hit some more, it was like I was talking to myself again, like, you're getting hit, boom, you went down again. And that's when you see me slamming my fist on the ground, because I'm like, you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You know what you're doing. And I just was so mad. And then, my dad says, hey, I knew that this could happen in this fight. I knew that this might be coming. So my dad stepped up on the apron. I wasn't expecting that. Hey, that's the first time we ever had to deal with it. And we've had conversations actually on the podcast. And I said, I'm like, yeah, my dad knows what to do. And I can't argue with my dad. My dad, you don't see, Shawn Porter's not the fighter that takes 6 or 7 shots clean in a row the way that I did against Terence Crawford. My dad knows who's across the ring. Terence ain't gonna stop. Terence is a sharpshooter. And he is who he is, man. One of the best to do it.